Welcome to the Board Game Network. This is James. I'm going to be explaining how to play this game called Red Dragon Inn Battle for Greyport. And Red Dragon Inn is right here. It's hard to see, but it's based on that world of the Red Dragon Inn, put out by Slugfest Games. And this is a deck builder game. And because it's a deck builder, and that's really all you have in the box is a bunch of cards, and they're not really separated into decks when you get them, the correct decks, that I don't remember it being that way anyway. It's challenging to play your first game because of you don't really know, you're just digging through cards trying to find all the stuff. So what I've got here is I've got it laid out, and I think the rule book should do a better job of this, of putting the backs with the faces so you can tell what kind of card it is by looking at the backs. They did a great job of putting different backs on different cards. However, with it being a deck builder and you putting new heroes and new items in your deck, they have to have the same back. So you're trying to distinguish between other heroes besides your hero cards and other items besides your item cards. They've got the same back, so how to distinguish that and stuff. So I've got these flipped over. There are there's 7 scenarios here that you can play through. And so the scenarios have the red back that looks like this. And they tell you on here which encounters go with this scenario. The encounters match, the back here matches this face. So there are the 2 encounters, the City Under Siege and Save the Ale. Those 2 go with this scenario. And then the locations are the ones with the greenbacks. And these are reused between the different scenarios, so they're not going to have a specific picture on them that matches. So you look for Greyport City Hall, and you look for the Red Dragon Inn, and then those are the 2 locations that go with this this scenario. And then you have some kind of boss monster. It says right here, defeat Drog and all other monsters. So you're going to have to get Drog, and Drog is in these, and they've got a full color back, except for Valeria has a double-sided card. So once you got the multicolor ones, those are the boss monsters. So you're going to get Drog out for the first scenario. And once you have this, all these other oversized cards can go back in the box. Now, here are hero cards, and these are what you can purchase, what you can recruit throughout the game, and they all have a white background to the title. And there's 50 of those. Here's your item cards. They either have a red back to the title or a blue back to the title, and that tells you which kind of hero you can play it on. If it's a blue hero, you can play the blue items. If it's a red hero, you can play the red items. And there's 48 of these, I believe, items. And then they've got separators so that once you get this all separated, you can stick it in the box and keep them separated. Here are the player heroes. Each player is going to have their own hero that they're playing. So there's Gurky the Sneak, and Kronos, and Fiona, and Zot, and Deidre. So there's 5 different player characters here. And with each of those, this is just a separator card, but it has a reference on the back that tells you what you can do during your round and at the end of the round. Each one of these player characters has 3 large cards, let's say level 1, level 2, and level 3, and you're going to start out with level 1. But if you successfully make it through one of your encounters, then you go up to level 2, and then some of your scenarios have 3 encounters, so you'd go up to level 3. And then you've got a 9-card deck. And these are heroes, so they got a white background to the title, but the way you distinguish them is in the lower right-hand corner. There's an icon that matches the face of your character right here. So there's 9 of those, and that's what you shuffle up to start your game. There are curse cards, and they just have these skulls with green coming out of the skull. And they have the same back as all the heroes and the items. And what those are for is they get mixed into your deck and weaken your deck because they don't do anything. But when you draw a card and you get one of those, you can't do anything with it. So it just weakens your deck. Here are the different kinds of monsters throughout the game. And if you look at the separator card up here, it's got a little icon. And it matches the lower right icon for that race of monster. And there's 20 of each monster type. And if you look at your scenario, it tells you which, in the case of the interrupted party, which 2 kinds of monsters you're going to need throughout the game. And so you're going to start with the beasts first, and that's what you're going to start with at the beginning. And then you're going to end up with the brutes after that once you go to the second encounter. And so there's several different kinds of monsters. And then you've got monster tokens. And monster tokens are cards that come out when something happens. So usually some of these monsters here will have like an ambush, which when this comes into play, then the ambush happens also at the exact same time. It says add a rat swarm token to the monster group. So you look through the monster tokens and you find a rat swarm, and then that comes out also in addition to the other card. So those are all the cards in the game. You also have this Kronos, the Time Mage deck, which goes with the Red Dragon Inn card game. So you're just going to remove that because you're not going to use it for this game. And you'll notice there's a separator card that both of them have a Kronos, Time Mage. You want the one for this game that has the reference on the back. You don't want this one. Now that you understand all the cards, that probably saved you an hour and a half by watching that part of the video on when you get this game and you separate cards, how to do that. And I'll get right into explaining how to play the game. Okay, the first thing you decide when you're playing the Battle for Greyport is which scenario you're playing. So I've just got it set up for the very first scenario. It suggests the interrupted party. And so I'm going to pull the encounters that match with the same picture on them. So I've got the City Under Siege and Save the Ale. City Under Siege is going to be the first encounter. And so that's just going to be off to the side. And here's the 2 monster decks I'm going to have. This is the number of players that are playing. So based on how many players, you're going to have this set up this way. So this is how many hit points the location gets to start. So you'll notice it's got 9 hit points no matter how many players. So Greyport City Hall, it tells you right here which location to put out, which matches it here. And then it tells you to put 8 or 9 hit points on that location. So I've got 9 there. It tells you which monster deck to put out. And so I've got the beasts here. And so those are just going to get shuffled. And that's my starting monster deck. Now when you go to a different encounter and it tells you to put a different monster deck out, you are simply shuffling that into what's left of your current monster deck. So you're going to end up with some stronger monsters and some weaker monsters, maybe, based on the different monsters, but usually the second monster deck is stronger than the first one. So you're going to mix that into whatever's left from the monster deck. This is the number of coins that each player gets. So in this case there's 2 coppers and 2 silvers. There's also gold. So this is what the coppers and the silvers look like. The golds have a triangle on them. And this is, let's say we've got 4 players, so this is the 5 points of threat of monsters go in front of that city, and 4 points of threat go in front of each player. I have my hero deck shuffled, and these are reinforcements. All of these over here, heroes and items, are reinforcements, so you can buy those with your money and put them into your deck and shuffle them in. So here's heroes. You're going to flip up 4 heroes after you've shuffled, and you're going to watch for, if there's gold, then you keep flipping, and you're going to watch for, if you have a character that flips up that's going to be in play, because there's characters in here that match the characters that you can play, and if that happens, this one gets taken out of the game. So my suggestion is, instead of doing that, is to just go ahead and pull these out of the deck ahead of time for the ones that are going to be in play. You just get to pick which player you want. There's 5 available. This is a 2 to 5 player game. So go through the deck and pull those out so you don't have to remember. So anyway, those 2 are not going to be in play because those are gold. So you keep flipping until you have 4 non-gold cards flipped up here. And then these are going to get shuffled back into the deck. And then you're going to do the same thing with the 48 card items, except for you're going to flip up 8. You're going to watch for gold items. Those are going to go back into the deck, because in the first scenario you don't even have gold, so you couldn't purchase them anyway. So all of these out here you could purchase with the coins that you have. These get shuffled back in. And I've got Fiona is who I've picked out here for my character, and normally you get 10 hit points to start with. However, this scenario says that on the setup each player starts with 8 hit points instead of 10. So the very first scenario they've got you weaker than a normal scenario. You need to read your little storyline here on what's going on. Here's the setup. We've done this, and you'll notice it says to win this game you need to defeat Drog and all other monsters. Drog is the boss monster that's going to be in play. And that's going to be on the second encounter. If you look at the second encounter, it says add Drog. So he's going to be one of the monsters out in play along with other monsters. So you have to defeat every single monster in play to win this game. To lose, any player is reduced to 0 hit points or fewer. That's the standard lose scenario. If any one person dies, any one hero dies, you lose the game. So once you've got that all set up, we have to flip up the threats for the location. So once again, we're going to have 5 points of threats. So we're going to flip it up, and you're going to look down here in the lower left hand corner, and it tells you what the threat rating is for this monster. So you're going to keep flipping until you get to a total of 5 or more. Minimum 5. So there's 4 points and then 5 points. That's 5 points. And then we're going to do the same thing for every player, and this is 4 points for each player. So we're going to flip up. There's 2 and 4. And then you do that for every player. And then you deal with ambush. You look at ambush, and ambush means something else happens. And that happens immediately. As soon as one of those monsters comes into play, ambush happens also. So this says the player, this is in front of, discards an item. So as soon as you pick your character, you're going to take your 9-card deck, and you'll notice this Fiona only has 2 items in the deck. Everything else is a hero. So you're going to shuffle that deck. You're going to draw 5 cards. And you can play face up since this is cooperative, so everybody can see everybody's cards. So dealing with ambush, it says this player. Well, this is in front of a location, so it doesn't affect, so it's not really a player, so it doesn't do anything. Add a rat swarm token to this monster group. So you're going to look in your monster tokens, you're going to grab out a rat swarm, and then that is in addition to these. It says ambush, this is in front of that player, this is in front of, discards an item. So just like this one, but except for it doesn't do anything. And then here we say add a warg token to this monster group. So once again we look at our monster tokens and find a warg. And this says add a rat swarm token. So Fiona here is going to start with 4 monsters that are fighting her. And she did have 1 item, so if one of these would have showed up, then she would have had to discard one of these ones that makes you discard, and she would have had to discard her item out of her hand to start the game. Okay, so that's the setup, and then here's your the rest of your monster deck just sits there. And we are ready to start. And on the back of your hero card, you have a reference. Now, one of the things that is slightly confusing for this game is it talks about a round. Whoever's going to be the first player, he gets this taunt counter, and it's called the round marker. Whoever has that, it's his turn. He's called the defending player. He's the active player. But a round is not once everybody in the game has taken a turn. It is whoever has this token, it's his turn. And everybody else can act on his turn and play heroes out and attack his creatures. But once everybody is done doing that, that's a round, and then this gets passed to the next player, and then you have another round. So once you've got everything set up, you just put the location on top of the encounter and leave this bottom part here so you can read it, because that's everything else on the encounter is done. And this tells you that if you lose the city, so if the city goes down to 0 hit points, this is the penalty. And this penalty for this scenario is each player loses 2 hit points. So when you're only starting with 8, 2 is significant, and every hit point matters in this game. So for me to start, here's my first 5 cards, and I want to fight these. Now I only get the level 1 Fiona. Level 2 and level 3 are not in play. And when I go to the next encounter, that's when I go up to level 2. And so in this scenario, I will never go to level 3 because I only have 2 encounters. But some of the scenarios have 3 encounters. And Fiona says she can cleave. So cleave means she can actually attack 2 creatures, and she does the same amount of damage to both of them. So whatever amount of damage she does it to both. Now here's your monsters. This is the amount of damage the monster does to you, and this is the amount of hit points it has before it dies. So I can play 1 hero. Here's your choices for what you can do in your action. You can play a hero, you can play an item on each hero. You can fight an active monster or a location monster if there are no active monsters. Active monsters are monsters in front of the defending player who has the round marker. Those are the active monsters. So on somebody else's turn, they can fight the active monsters also. If all of the active monsters have been wiped out, then they can fight the location monsters, but you can't do that, or you can't fight somebody else's monsters. And then the defending player may use the round marker to taunt. And what taunt does is, once you use it, you flip this over to the other side. Taunt lets you pull, you're taunting another creature. Hey, I got my red cape here. Ooh. And then you take a monster from either a location or from another player onto your group of monsters. So definitely kind of a scary thing to do, but your intention is to protect either the location or protect another player if it looks like they need to lose some creatures. And so any of these actions can be done in any order. So playing a hero, let's say I put out Fiona, that's my best one. All my starter heroes are lame. They all 1 point, they don't do anything. And then I can put an item. So I've played one hero, I can play an item. An item, this item has a down arrow and it says taunt. Whenever you have a down arrow on a card and you play that card out, that down arrow, whatever that action is, it happens immediately as soon as you play it. So you are then required to taunt somebody, a monster. So these are all one monsters, so that's not going to make too much difference which one I pull. So splash damage to a rat swarm is doubled. That's very nice. So I put out one hero, I put out one item, and I can attack, and when I attack I turn sideways to show that I've attacked, because I can only attack once per round. And then I have to say which one I'm fighting, and this hero actually uses a yellow die to attack with, and there's yellow, there's white, and there's green. Green is by far the biggest one. It rolls up to an 8. The white is just a standard 6-sided dice, and then the yellow one has a max of 4. So yeah, so this would be whatever the yellow die is, whatever I roll, and then I would add 1 to it because I've got a sword also. So I'm going to attack, let's say, let's do something that I have a reasonable chance of killing. So the Rat Master, let's do that one. And I go 2 plus 1 is 3, and I did not kill it. So I take these wound tokens and put it out there to mark that he has 3 wounds. And then it would be somebody else's chance to attack, and it does not happen in any specific order. Anybody can do these actions in essentially any order they want to. You do have to remember that you can only put 1 hero out per round, and you can only put 1 item per hero out. There are some things that let you play an extra hero. So here's your second, which one? The Dread Dragon Inn says the defending player has plus hero. So the defending player, the player with the round token, can put a second hero out. And because of that, if he puts 2 heroes down, he can put 2 items down, because the limitation is 1 item per hero that you can put out. And so somebody else might get out put a hero down. They could play a card in their hand, or they could play their main hero and put item out and attack and try to kill as many of these as they could. Your limitation on putting an item down is you have to put it on a hero that has not yet fought. So once it's turned sideways, you can't put an item on it. There are some different actions. The down arrow happens immediately. There is an arrow that goes to the side, and that you can use anytime during the round. Let's see if I can find one here. Here's one right here. It says dual wield. Dual wield means you can put 2 items on one hero. And the back of this rule book here has card specific notes at the back, so if you want to look up about a specific card, it tells you about it here. And then there's abilities, and so there's several different kinds of abilities in this game. And so wield, if you don't know what wield is, you're just going to look that up in here. Dual wield says this hero may use 2 items. There's all kinds of different ones. Splash is one that comes up pretty frequently, and that monster can do damage to a whole string of creatures besides the one he attacked. So he's going to attack one, and then everybody else is going to take splash damage. That's what's going to kill these rat swarms if somebody does splash damage, because it's going to double that. Snipe lets you pick out a creature that you want to do damage to. The crossed swords, that happens during a fight. So those are the 3 main symbols, icons: the down arrow, the side arrow, and the crossed swords. And if all of your monsters have been killed, then you can attack the location monsters. If at the beginning of your turn you have no monsters, you are required to taunt. The requirement to taunt when you don't have creatures in front of you only happens if there's not location monsters also. So if you don't have monsters but there's monsters in front of the location, you're not required to taunt because you can attack the monsters in front of the location. You're not going to just sit around and watch other people. You are going to participate. So, but if they die during the round, then you're not required to taunt. And as soon as all creatures are gone, if all monsters are gone, then you go into the encounter cleanup, which I'll talk about in a little bit. There are some creatures that have... Oop, I did this wrong. There are some creatures that have banners on them that say tank or ranged, and tank has to be attacked first. They are like the front lines. So I wouldn't be able to attack this one first. I'd have to attack one of the rat swarms. And ranged has to be attacked last. So it's back there with its ranged weapons. If you can attack more than one, like the cleave, which I didn't even cleave. When I'm talking, I don't think much. So because both of these are tanks, I have to attack these 2. So both of them take 3 points of damage. Because I did a cleave, which does the same amount to both heroes. So if somebody else in my party can do 1 point to either of those, which they could throw down just a soldier and attack and kill, you know, just ping them, and those will die. And then I have the freedom to attack anybody I want to on my next round. Now, once all monsters are gone from a location, you get a reward. And the reward happens only if there is still at least 1 hit point on the location. And all monsters have gone from the location, so they don't have to be dead if they could be taunted away. But then that location is safe. And if that happens, you look at this treasure right here, and it says each player may immediately recruit a card from the reinforcements. They must spend recruitment coin as normal. So they could recruit each player, every single player, as soon as the rest of the monsters are gone, can buy one of these cards. And when they buy these cards, they go to your hand. They do not go into the discard. So if you bought, then you pay, here's the cost, a copper, pay a copper. Now you can always pay down for one. So a silver can buy a silver or a copper, and a gold can buy a gold, silver, or copper. Okay, so once everybody is done attacking my characters, once everybody is done attacking my monsters, then you do the end of round part here. And for the end of the round, the active monsters deal damage. So I'm just going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I would lose 5 hit points, and I'm now down to 3. Now I'm assuming that during the game some other people would have killed some of these, hopefully. None of them are particularly strong, but there are ones that are significantly stronger than these in this deck. And then the location monsters deal damage, so the location is going to lose 3, this is one reason why you need to be taunting these monsters away from the location, because every single round they do damage to the location. So on my round they do damage, and on the next player's round they do damage, on the next player's round they do damage, and by the time everybody has had one turn, that location has been defeated, probably, depending on how many players you have. And then you do cleanup, and there are abilities in here that have a broom symbol beside them, and so those all, you do resolve any of those abilities. You discard all played cards, so all cards that have been played go to the discard. Now your main big player character, that gets set off to the side. You never discard that and shuffle it into the deck. You discard any unused shield tokens, and shield tokens, when you play a card down that gives you a shield, it just sets out here beside you, and then when you take damage, you can reduce that damage by discarding the shield. So if you haven't used a shield and you have one in front of you, then you have to discard it. That goes away at the end of every round. You recruit, and this is for the defending player, the current player that has the round marker. He can buy one of these cards. So I'm gonna buy, I don't know, buy the war horn. And you want to pay attention to, if you're buying an item, that it has to match the color of the hero you're playing it on. And then you immediately flip up another card to replace the purchased card. Then you discard, and you can discard as many cards as you want. You have to discard down to 5, but you can discard extras. I see all these soldiers sitting here. Maybe I want to discard a couple of those and then draw back up to 5. And then you're the refill is you draw back to 5, and then you put your main player character back in your hand. So you're going to end up with 6 cards. Now if you notice, this is for the defending player only, where this discard and refill happens. Everybody else who played heroes out to attack my characters, they don't get to do this. So they're going to gradually be playing out their hand, and they don't get to draw until the end of their round when it comes back. So if they played their main player character out to attack one of my monsters, they're not going to get that one back until at the end of their next turn. And then you pass the round marker, and the round marker, if the taunt happens, so you had it flipped over, it's going to go back up to where it says taunt, so the next player can do the taunt. Now there's what's called encounter cleanup. And encounter cleanup happens when there are no monsters left on the board, no player monsters, no location monsters. All monsters have been defeated for that location. And what happens is you do a cleanup, so you remove any of the broom effects. The current player, or all players, discard cards played, and you discard your shield, any shield tokens. You must spend all of the remaining coins that you have on recruitments, and you can do this in any order you want. You have to spend the rest of your coins. And if there's an occasion where you have maybe a copper, but everything else out here is silver, you actually can purchase up, because you have to spend it. And then you'll get more coins on the next encounter. And then everybody discards as many as they want. and then refills their hand up to 5, plus then they go up to the next level character into their hand. So at that point you are going to also get rid of this location. You're going to get your new location and your new encounter. You're going to go through your encounter setup just like you did before. So there's going to be 10 hit points on the location. There's going to be 5 points of threat to this location. There's going to be 5 points of threat to every player. And Droog, his hit points is based on this number here. So he's going to start with 50 hit points. And so he's going to be another monster in with whatever monsters flipped up, fighting and damaging the red dragon in every turn. And then here's your new monster deck, and you're going to shuffle that into this monster deck. Here's the new coins you get, and then you're going to put that on there. And you'll notice that this setup says the defending player has plus hero. So the defending player having plus hero means that whoever the defending player has can put out 2 heroes. And I didn't read that for Greyport City Hall. It has a special ability too. When a player recruits a physical card, that player may snipe 1. So every time you purchase a recruit, you get to do a snipe 1, which is 1 point of damage. So when I bought a card off of there, I could do 1 point of damage and kill a rat swarm. And then those just go to the discard. So I should have read that at the beginning when I was doing that. And then remember your bonus, a player of the party's choice may recruit a card from the reinforcements for free, and that's once all monsters are gone from there. If you do not save the location, here's your penalty of each player loses 4 hit points. Devastating. So that's your next setup for the next scenario. So that's how you play Red Dragon Inn Battle for Greyport. It takes a half hour per player, and it really does take half hour per player, you know, unless you die, because the game could be shorter then. But it's a very challenging. I've played the Interrupted Party. I've played it twice. I've lost twice. It is tough. So, but this is the easy one, and so I'm going to say, you know, it's more fun to play ones that are hard than to play ones that are easy. So I'm intrigued by this game, and I want to play it again, and I want to defeat this scenario so I can go on to the next scenario. So that's how you play this game, and make sure you tune into all of our videos at the Board Game Network. Also check out our Facebook page at facebook.com/BoardGameNetwork. Our YouTube channel is youtube.com/BoardGameNetwork. And we also put videos up on Board Game Geek.